It's finally time for our main event. Zab Judah against Floyd Mayweather. Judah has campaigned for 2 years at welterweight, including his biggest win over Corey Spinks and his worst loss to Carlos Baldemir. Mayweather has fought only once at 147 pounds, but few predict the added weight will bother him tonight. Judah versus Mayweather is being brought to you by Caesars Palace Las Vegas. Live famously. Wynn Las Vegas Resort and Country Club. By Corona Extra, miles away from ordinary. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. Fans of Zab Judah hope for a return to form. That would be the slick technical style which saw Judah wrest the undisputed welterweight championship away from Corey Spinks, rather than the lackluster defensive performance in which he lost to Carlos Baldemir in January. No one questions Floyd Mayweather's form in championship fights. From Genaro Hernandez through Diego Corrales, Jose Luis Castillo, Mayweather has been in with the best and has beaten them all. At ringside again, once again, with our special expert commentator tonight, former world heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis. Lennox, conventional wisdom is that Zab Judah has at best a puncher's chance in the fight. Now, he's not exactly Jack Dempsey as a puncher, and obviously conventional wisdom is that Mayweather is a truly great boxer. So even though Judah sees himself as the bigger, stronger man, how real is his puncher's chance? How big is his chance against a great boxer like Floyd Mayweather?
Well, usually when they say you don't have a puncher's chance, you have a puncher's chance. And that's what the main thing is about. When you throw a punch out there, when an exchange is going on, and you throw a punch out there, there's always that chance that you may catch the other opponent. And that's what they say when they mean a puncher's chance. But I believe that Zab Judah is going out there, he's trying to win the fight. So he likes to be the underdog. Like he said, he's a clutch player, and this is what he's going to go out there and prove.
We shall see if Judah is the kind of clutch player who can get this done. Probably no one in the sport is more skeptical than you. So why do you think that Judah's supposedly slim puncher's chance is slimmer than the way other people see it?
You've noticed.
I know you.
It's simple. Mayweather is an A+ fighter. Judah is a few grades below that. Plus, he has a mouthful of 20 carats worth of diamonds. Unfortunately, they are in a setting of glass. And in his fight against Baldemir, he seemed to be clueless. And further, as Mayweather put it, this is flawless against jawless.
Well, interestingly, neither fighter brought his trainer to yesterday's fighter meetings. Both fighters are trained by family members. And in both instances, the relationships are sometimes in and out. But both trainers are very interesting, so let's take a look for a moment at their bios and consider their possible influence on the fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr. was trained at the beginning of his professional career by his father, Floyd Mayweather. Ultimately, they didn't get along at all. So Uncle Roger Mayweather was brought in to become the trainer instead, and Roger, by his own estimation, has done a great job with Floyd. 10 years as a trainer, trained Hasim Rahman at one time against John Ruiz. He himself was a terrific right-hand puncher as a fighter who was known for a while as the Mexican assassin because he had a kind of cottage industry going, fighting Mexican fighters before largely Mexican-American crowds in Los Angeles, wearing the black hat as the villain and beating them. He's a guy who likes competitive pressure. He definitely has done a fine job as Floyd Jr.'s trainer. And just as Floyd Mayweather is trained by a former professional boxer, in fact, has been trained by 2 former professional boxers, Zab Judah is trained by his father, who is a former world kickboxing champion. 20 years as a trainer, has trained a couple of other noteworthy fighters. But Larry Merchant, both of these guys, Roger Mayweather and Yoel Judah, are essentially, in the minds of the boxing public, one-fighter trainers. Roger trains Floyd. Yoel trains Zab. They don't have a broad influence elsewhere in the sport. What is their meaning in tonight's fight?
I think that Yoel Judah, as a former kickboxing champion, did not train his son in the schooled arts of boxing. His son, Zab, has an unorthodox style dependent on his athleticism, whereas Mayweather comes from a family of fighters and boxers. and they raised their son and nephew from the time he was in the crib throwing jabs and left hooks with rattles to be the fighter he is, a classic boxer with a punch.
Now, we filled 2 minutes there so that they could find the person who was supposed to sing the national anthem. Let's go into the ring to Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, would everyone please rise at this time for our national anthem to be performed here by our very special guest. A round of applause for Mr. Kavan Edmonds.
I would like to dedicate my performance of the national anthem to all the troops here at home and abroad who are fighting for and defending our way of life. All righty? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free? Oh, yeah. And the home of the brave. Thank you.
Tail of the tape for Zab Judah against Floyd Mayweather Jr. And you can see the one-year age advantage for Judah, if you want to call it an advantage. The bottom line is they are both in the peak years of their careers. They have known each other, according to Judah, since he was 8 years old, meaning for 20 years. For most of the 20 years, they were friends. Definitely not now. Height, a 1-inch advantage for Mayweather. Arm length, a 4-inch advantage for Mayweather, measured from the armpit to the end of the fist. Remember, Judah thinks he's the bigger, stronger man. They weighed in under the 147-pound limit, both of them. Tonight, neither guy has gained much, meaning that they trained well and are in superb condition for the fight. Judah at 150, Mayweather unofficially weighs the same tonight that he did yesterday. Rules of the bout with our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
The Zab Judah Floyd Mayweather fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight. In case a cut is caused by an accidental headbutt, we go to the scorecards if the 4 rounds have been completed, and you cannot be saved by the bell of any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, Harold. In an odd piece of boxing politics, because Zab Judah still holds a welterweight title belt despite losing to Carlos Valdemir in January in Madison Square Garden, Floyd Mayweather walks first tonight. Very odd in a way, Lennox, to see the world's best pound-for-pound fighter walking first. Walk first, walk second, does it make any difference?
Well, to me, it always made a difference because I always like the other opponent to wait for me to come into the ring and watch me come into the ring. While he's in the ring trying to, stay calm, he's still dealing with the pressures of the outside crowd and everything. And, the last guy in the ring always says that he's the best because last guys always comes to the ring the last. The best guys always come to the ring the last.
But if anything bothers Floyd Mayweather, you're never going to know it at a moment like this. His level of relaxation, as we mentioned earlier when he was smiling and laughing walking into the arena, is enormous for this kind of task. The outfit looks a little bit more like Christmas than April. But maybe Floyd is planning to give us all a big gift.
Well, he certainly is going to get a big gift. He's guaranteed $5 million.
And we'll make more if the pay-per-view sells well, Larry?
Make more, but more important, I think, to him is how he performs and whether, in fact, he becomes a true pay-per-view star. Fighters like Hopkins didn't, and Jones didn't, and Mosley didn't, all terrific in their own way. And maybe Mayweather will break through, especially with the heavyweight division in the shape it's in today.
Zab Judah held a title at 140 pounds, held the unified welterweight championship before losing that totally unexpected upset when he was a 20-1 favorite against Carlos Baldemir in New York in January. And one thing Zab wants to live down here in Las Vegas was the embarrassment of what happened to him when he fought Costa Zoo here. And he was knocked down in the second round, knocked loopy by a Zoo right hand. And when referee Jay Nady stopped the fight, Zab Judah threw a chair at Nady and went after him and put his hands around his throat. Why is that significant tonight? Well, it's significant because the referee for the fight is not Jay Nady, it's Richard Steele. And also because Zab wants to put on the kind of performance that would eliminate what happened against Zoo from any future discussion.
What also is significant is that his guarantee went from $3 million to $1 million after the loss to Baldemir. And there reportedly are IRS fans here ready to seize most of that.
It's quite a gathering. Bob Arum promoting with Don King. Much hip-hop royalty in the audience. The IRS waiting to see where the money goes. And we're ready for more of Michael Buffer and the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thomas and Mack Center, Las Vegas, Nevada. Tonight, by way of Caesar's Palace and Wynn Las Vegas, Bob Arum's Top Rank Incorporated and Don King Productions are proud to present the main event of the evening. 12 rounds of boxing for the IBF Welterweight Championship of the World. Sponsored by La Cerveza Más Fina, Corona Extra, and presented in association with HBO Pay-Per-View. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission Chairman Skip Avancino Jr., Executive Director Mark Ratner. At ringside, the three judges scoring this contest on the 10-point system are Glenn Hamada, Dave Moretti, and Jerry Roth. And when the bell rings, the man in charge of the action inside the ring, your referee, Richard Steele. And now, for the sold-out thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Had it 119-109, so at least one of the three judges saw total dominance by Floyd Mayweather. Here are final CompuBox numbers. Judah landing a total of 82 punches in the fight, and Floyd Mayweather landing 106 more of them, even though Floyd threw 40 fewer punches than Judah. So final CompuBox numbers show Judah landing at less than half the rate, and almost a third of the rate of Floyd Mayweather. And in the power punch category, the dominance is even more clear as Mayweather landed 86 more power punches, threw 133 more power punches, and landed at the significantly higher percentage. When you land nearly 50% of your power punches, you're going to win the fight unless the other guy does something extremely off the board, and Judah wasn't able to do that. Larry Merchant with the winner, Mr. Pound for Pound, Floyd Mayweather.
Thank you, Jim. Congratulations, Floyd. First few rounds went differently than most of your fights. Why?
Well, you gotta realize, I knew Zab Judah was a front runner. But first of all, I want to thank God for this victory. Thank all the people who supports Floyd Mayweather. I knew Zab was a front runner.
What do you mean by that?
A front runner is he's strong for the first 6 rounds, and after that, he gas out.
So you were letting him go and just examining what he was doing and measuring him?
Relax and keep my composure. That was our game plan. We knew Zab was gonna come out strong. We was gonna relax, take our time, and stick to the game plan. Let's take him, deep and drown him. And we didn't have no confrontation in the ring, the fight would have been over.
As you were beating him up in the middle and late rounds, he was talking. What was he saying to you?
We come from the same school. Call me a bitch, you a bitch. But he say what he say. I'm just happy to be 4-time world champion in 4 different weight classes.
Let's talk about this fight. Okay, we get late in the fight. You're cleaning him out. You're blooding his nose and his mouth. Did you think he went below the belt deliberately to get even with you?
I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about Zab. It was a great fight. He's a great fighter.
Do you think your uncle, your trainer, thought that, and that's why he got so excited?
My uncle already said he was going to do that.
He did?
My uncle said that 2 days ago. He said, once you get to beating on him, he's going to do something dirty to cause a confrontation, and we're going to have a problem. And we knew this was going to happen, but, this is boxing. I just want to be a gentleman. I respect Zab Judah. I respect this camp. And tonight he made me respect this fight game, but I feel great. I just want to, continue to beat the best they got out there.
Was he a little bit more solid and less odd and weird out there than you expected?
I hurt my hand in the fight. Actually, I hurt my right hand. That's why I wasn't using my right so much towards the end. I hurt my right hand early on in the fight. But I kept using it. I went back to the corner and said, keep using it, keep going to the body, keep breaking them down. And, I wasn't using no power shots. Now, all I was doing was trying to break him down and punish him.
You said you wanted to punish him. You also said you wanted to knock him out. Are you disappointed you couldn't get him out of there?
I think I could have got him out of there if the confrontation, because that's when I was pressing harder. But the confrontation threw me out of my zone. I was in the zone. But once all that confrontation got going on in the ring, and it threw me out of my zone.
So you just felt you'll just win the last 2 rounds, glide through it?
Yeah. Just box the last 2 rounds and just take the victory the best way.
Thank you very much. Congratulations against Floyd.
Thank you.
Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Lennox Lewis, as the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sports, marketing power and popularity continue to grow. I can think of at least a half-dozen fighters who might be watching him tonight and trying to figure out when they want to fight him to try to make that money and be a part of that big event. Oscar De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto. There are quite a number of them. Who could beat him?
I don't know. I don't see really anybody out there right now. He's too sweet right now. Floyd is a remarkable boxer. He shows great talent, great speed, and it's going to be very difficult to beat him out there.
Yeah, it's probably going to be, until he develops the marketing power like De La Hoya has had, where it's, all right, I got to fight him for all that money whether I have a chance to win or not. Is Larry Merchant ready with the loser, Zab Judah? Yes, he is, I'm told. Let's go back into the ring.
Thank you, Jim. Zab, give us your assessment of what went on in there tonight. You had the advantage after a few rounds, feel-out type of rounds, and then he seemed to dominate you once you got into the middle rounds.
I'll take no credit. I make no excuses. First of all, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for blessing me with the opportunity of being safe and coming out of this fight work. Second of all, Mayweather's a good fighter. He's quick. He got good hands, and I make no excuses. He's a better guy tonight.
Your father was urging you to throw more punches throughout the fight.
Yeah.
Was he just too quick with his counter punches for you to let go?
No, I don't think that. I think that he was a very great defensive fighter. I think that for the defense, he kept a great tight defense, and that was good.
All right, tell us what happened when you hit him below the belt. I don't know if we have any footage here But you describe what happened at that point.
Well, Larry, I'm not a dirty fighter. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to use dirty tactics to go in there and prove my thing. You know, I was aiming for the body. You know, it maybe was a little low, and that's why I came back with another shot. 'Cause I didn't feel that I did it on purpose. And when I did that, Roger jumped in, and the trainer took a swing at me. So I mean, you know, I'm a fighter. You know, I'm in the world trying to fight. My only reaction is to go ahead and go. Then he was choking me in the corner. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the security had my arms, and he was choking me. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I'm making no excuses. You know, May was a great fighter. Hope that down the line we could do it again, and that's it.
Do you feel that this fight, taking Mayweather the distance, redeemed the last fight and some of the other fights you've had in which you haven't been your best?
Well, I think so. I mean, you know, everybody knows me that know that, you know, I can fight. That's one thing that I do best. And, you know, I mean, Carlos Bordenay was a whole different bracket fighter. He's a great fighter himself. Take nothing from him. But, you know, at this fight, I was just mentally prepared for something different than I was for the New York fight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Let's go back to the melee for a second, Lennox Lewis, because I'm told that Zab Judah's promoter, Don King, has been loudly making the case in the ring that Mayweather should have been disqualified because Roger jumped into the ring. You heard the discussion between Harold Letterman and myself when we signed off on the notion that it was good judgment, not bad judgment, for him not to be disqualified. Do you see any merit in the argument that Mayweather should have been disqualified because of what Roger did?
You know what? As long as they got the fight back on and we were able to see a good fight once again, the last couple of rounds, they got it all sorted out, and that was the main thing.
I agree with you. In other words, it wouldn't have been good for the sport for this to end on the disqualification of a fighter who had just been hit on a low blow and hit in the back of the head, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree.
All right, let's take another look just so we can once again get your expert opinion on all of this. Now, Roger Mayweather jumps into the ring, as you see there, wanting to get at Zab, and obviously it's his belief that Zab intentionally hit Mayweather on the cuff and also intentionally hit him on the back of the head. You and I agreed it would be impossible to tell whether the low blow was intentional, but you can see that you're hitting the guy on the back of the head, right?
Yeah, I mean, he punched him in the back of the head, but, you know, in the sport of boxing, you have to protect yourself at all times. Even if you get punched punched low, you still have to protect yourself because the other guy out there is throwing punches. He's trying to take you out.
Now, we heard Zab Judah complaining that Mayweather had been, quote, choking him in the corners. And incidentally, Floyd has done this throughout his career, where he takes his forearm and puts it against a fighter and pushes him back like that, often winding up with the hand under the throat. Is it illegal?
Yeah, it's illegal. It's illegal, but the ref has to warn you. You know, you can. I say to all the boxers, go out there and do it. And if the ref warns you and stops you, you have to stop at that point. But if the ref ain't saying nothing, you know, keep on doing it. But stay in the confounds of the rules.
Well, that's the way it all turned out. Larry Merchant now joins us back at ringside, and incidentally, thanks, Lennox. Great job tonight. Just terrific.
Thank you.
Larry, your final thoughts on what happened between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Zab Judah?
One way or another, Floyd Mayweather was going to win this fight. It was the other. And I think it was self-explanatory. He's just too good a fighter for somebody who comes supposedly with as much speed as him to try to outspeed him. That's not the way anybody's going to get Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah. Well, what way they are going to get him remains to be seen. Didn't happen tonight. Hard to see somebody on the horizon who has the kinds of advantages that could translate into a victory yet over Pretty Boy Floyd. Let's take a look at the upcoming boxing calendar here at HBO. Very busy. April 22 from Mannheim, Germany, Chris Bird defends his portion of the heavyweight title against Vladimir Klitschko. Live on HBO at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, airing again at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. Immediately after each showing of Bird Klitschko on the 22nd. Stay tuned for Countdown to De La Hoya Mayorga. It's a documentary-style behind-the-scenes look at the two men facing off next month. April 29, the 2006 debut of Boxing After Dark. First up, Acelino Freitas against Dahir Rahim in a lightweight fight. It's Rahim's first bout since his shocking upset of Eric Morales in September. And May 6th, live on HBO pay-per-view, Oscar De La Hoya versus Ricardo Mayorga. Oscar's first fight in a year and a half, and he chooses to take on the unpredictable and dangerous Nicaraguan power puncher, Mayorga. All right, Lennox, in the weeks since we were together in Atlantic City for James Toney against Hasim Rahman, the heavyweight division shuffles the deck once again, and Sergey Liakhovich gets a victory over Layman Brewster, which now puts yet another title belt in the hands of an Eastern European fighter. Where does Vladimir Klitschko stand in his journey as he gets ready to take on Chris Bird for a second time? He beat Bird in an easy decision 6 years ago.
I think it's going to be an interesting fight because, since that fight, he's had 2 losses. And he's got a great trainer in his corner, Emmanuel Stewart. And I think he's got great boxing ability. He's the only boxer out there that really uses his footwork, and he's got a whole heap of different offenses that he can use. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think he wants to be the best heavyweight in the world, and this is one step closer.
Emmanuel Stewart says that what he did with you was, in essence, to get you to fight the way a big man should fight. Vladimir's 6 feet 7 inches tall. If Emmanuel can accomplish everything he wants to accomplish with Vladimir, and leaving aside the power of the right hand, he's never going to be able to punch like you. Is he going to wind up looking more and more like you in the ring?
I think he's a great boxer. He's going to show some great boxing talent out there. Whether he can neutralize Chris is one question, but we're going to have to see it on the fight.
All right. Chris Bird couldn't handle him 6 years ago, Larry Merchant. Got knocked down several times in the fight. It was an easy decision for Vladimir. What could be different this time?
Well, they've both changed. Klitschko has changed a little, something in his style, but also now he's perceived as seriously flawed and vulnerable, whereas at that time he looked like the next big thing. And meanwhile, Bird has gotten older, a little bit more flat-footed, more willing to exchange punches. My guess is that he thinks he can go out there and somehow trap Klitschko and land a punch with all 215 pounds behind it and hopefully end the fight. Who knows?
We shall see. That's in Mannheim, Germany, 2 weeks from now, April 22. The heavyweight division continues to try to move toward some reasonable definition. Chris Bird, still with a title belt in tow, taking on Vladimir Klitschko for the second time. Well, it was an interesting night. Very good fights. The favorites here were Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Juan Diaz, Jorge Arce, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. All 4 favorites won. All of them at some moment or another facing some difficulty in the fight. All of them eventually rising to the fore with outstanding performances. At the end of the night, the star, once again, the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport. There's really no argument about that. Judah vs. Mayweather has been brought to you by Caesars Palace Las Vegas. Live famously. Wynn Las Vegas Resort and Country Club. By Corona Extra, miles away from ordinary. And by HBO Pay-Per-View, the best in pay-per-view entertainment, brought to you by HBO. We'd like to thank the following magazine and internet partners. So now for our entire crew, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Las Vegas, Nevada.